and I would need to check the mapping as to whether it is actually all surrounded by it. But I think what's good about this proposed site is that it does have existing woodland on 3 sides. So the idea that it can, that it's actually creating a bigger area or supporting an existing area of woodland.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Pete Cosgrove.
Thank you. When did the felling take place? I'm just wondering, given the site has got a very high density of red squirrels, and whether red squirrel drays were likely to have been destroyed by the felling.
I understand it was November 2024.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions for Katie? Paul Gibb.
Yeah, it's just one on the compensatory planting. Would it then be given the same protection that the original woodland should have had under pause status, or will it possibly be felled at some later date at their choosing?
Thanks. I'm not entirely sure how that would be assessed. I don't know whether convener, if Scott Shanks might be able to answer that question, but I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that one.
Okay, thank you, Katie. I'm happy to ask Scott to come in at this point. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, I think because it's because the compensatory planting would be part of this application, there'd be a presumption that would be maintained as as part of that kind of enhancement, as part of that application. So it should be maintained for at least as long as that application, the shed and the actual development is in existence, and presumably for the future. As part of the process, they have to go through the Scottish Forestry's woodland creation scheme, so it would then be registered as proper woodland, and then there would be a presumption against felling of that woodland in the future. Hopefully that helps.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Paul. Do we have any other questions for Katie, members? Okay, thank you, Katie. Moving on, I would like to say good morning to Andrew Patterson and Simon Gilmartin, agent and applicant. And I would like to ask you to come forward, gentlemen, and take your seats at the end here. Thank you. Mr. Patterson and Mr. Gilmartin will not be given a presentation, members, but they are here to answer any questions that you may have for them. So, first question from Bill Lovan. Thank you.
Please, could you explain to me the thought process, how you decided that it was appropriate to build a quite substantial building on ancient woodland without planning permission?
So the location was actually in what was the former car park for the restaurant, the adjacent restaurant. So it wasn't a greenfield site. When I took the place on, there was a lot of windblown trees, and it seemed, in terms of security and proximity to the lodge, that was the obvious location for the shed.
So I think the question was why did you not ask for planning permission before you proceeded?
At the time, I honestly didn't realise. There was an urgent need for an agricultural shed. I had equipment up there doing work, and I had to have some kind of secure storage. I dug it into the hillside so that it wouldn't be obvious. It can't be seen out with the estate, and that seemed to be I presume because it was an agricultural shed that it wouldn't need planning.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Eleanor McIntosh.
Yeah, can I just go back to my question to Katie about the compensatory planting? Is it agricultural ground?
There was actually... sorry. It was actually horses. It was kept in that field. The Americans before me had some horses, and they kept the Clydesdales in that background. So there's no... It's just rough ground, basically.
Yeah, but I presume it's in by ground. Do you have other options for compensatory sites? for planting?
Well, I think, yeah, there are other locations, but obviously, beside that, I've just taken down 2 hectares of wind-blown trees that had naturally been blown, and I got permission for that. So I have to replant that, restock that this coming year. And this is just immediately south of it, the 1.65 hectares. That was an area that was thought the most appropriate given the location and proximity to the shed and the area that was cleared.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions, members? Pete Cosgrove.
It's was any consideration given to the presence of potentially protected species? I see the felling was done outside of the bird breeding season, aside from crossbills, which breed at that time of year, but it was particularly in relation to red squirrel drays.
Yeah, well, obviously that was probably one of the most used areas of the estate because there's 2 wooden sheds there, so there was a lot of pedestrians, and there was 3 employees at the estate when I was there, and that's where they worked from. As I said earlier, there was a lot of the trees. It was, those of you that know the restaurant would know that it was basically a former car park. Well, there was locations within which cars would park. So we had wildlife cameras there, and there was a keeper who was aware of all the squirrels were mainly down at the house and in the walled garden. But that whole area was really in quite a bad state of disrepair when we took the place on.
Okay, thank you. Steve McElwright.
Yeah, just want to follow up on sort of Bill's point a little bit. So you had a felling license for Scots pine and larch from Scottish Forestry, but
Yeah.
what you actually did was clear felled the area and then reprofiled it. So what led you from having that permission to then go ahead with this this reprofiling of ground as well as clearing the area? Just interested again, like Bill, as to what the thought processes were there.
So the thought process was I had a clear fell licence for the windblown section and also had a thinning licence for the whole estate. As I said earlier, the location of Katie, I don't know if Katie, if you can put up the first slide you had on, you can see quite clearly from the topographical survey that was carried out, there was actually a road that looped round and served several parking locations, which in its former day served the rest. So you can see there's a loop road coming from the west through to the east. So that served the existing restaurant, which again is to the east. So it wasn't, let's say, greenfield or to me anyway, it would look more like a car park. And in conjunction with that, the trees that were in there was many of them windblown. In actual fact, the total count of trees that were taken down, windblown, was 80, for which I'm proposing to plant 3,300 trees in the adjacent field.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, do we have any more questions, either in the room or online? Paul Gibb.
Yeah, I just want to clarify what I thought I heard from you, because I can see here it says that the 3.3 hectare block of ancient woodland, approximately 106 metres north of the development site, has also been removed and developed as a car park, again without Scottish Forestry felling licence, and existing tracks through the Reback estate appear to be upgraded without planning permission. Did you say you had planning permission to clear fell for the car park?
Yeah, I've got a felling license, a clear fell license, as well as a thinning license for the whole estate. Well, the thinning license is for the whole estate. The clear fell is for, I think it's 2 hectares, which was predominantly windblown. Yeah.
Yeah, to David. That seems a contradiction to what I'm reading. Can you speak up, please, into the microphone? Sorry. I was just saying that seems like a contradiction to what I was reading here in the paper.
So Katie probably is maybe better placed to advise on the specific question about this area, but we are aware that there are other potential breaches of permission in the wider estate, which from an enforcement point of view we're also looking at present. And my understanding is that reference possibly relates to some of those other areas. But Katie, could you just clarify on this particular site?
So, yeah, sorry, I would maybe need to actually refer to Scott, convener, if that might be possible, because he has a much clearer understanding of exactly the licenses and the areas that they cover. But so I won't comment on the former car park, which is not part of this application.
Yeah, so our understanding, convener, is that the Clearfell license wasn't for this area, and that the thinning license, which covers the whole estate, would have covered this planning application boundary. If that's incorrect, Scott could maybe come on in that, but that's my understanding.
Yeah, apologies.
Is it okay for me to come in? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I just would like to clear this up, because then at the beginning of your piece, you were saying that you developed the site in response to my colleague Bill, that it was a car park, and therefore you were just developing on what had been already felt to some degree. But I wasn't of the understanding when reading the paper that it was a car park beforehand.
Well, sorry, Katie.
I was just going to say, from our perspective, and certainly from the aerial imagery that we had looked at, is there were definitely trees on the site, and it was a wooded site, and we've assessed it as such because we don't have evidence to show us otherwise, and we have evidence clearly which has been provided by particularly the Highland Council's forestry officer, that the site was wooded. It was wooded on that slope.
So, would you like to come back on that, Mr. Gilmore?
Yeah, sure. So as I said to you earlier, this was a tarred road that went into the woods. You can see immediately to the west of the shed, it says existing tarmac road, which then became unsurfaced and then looped round to another gate. That fence line's still in place there. So whilst an aerial or a satellite does show a significant amount of trees, there was car parking in amongst the trees. But when I took the place on, most of the trees had either been windblown, or so predominantly it had been a windblown area, but it looked to me like a brownfield site rather than a virgin woodland, let alone a PAWS site.
Okay, thank you. Scott, would you like to come in to provide some clarity, please?
Yeah, I can do. Yes, the estate has a thinning license covering quite an area, and a very specific felling license for a Sitka spruce in another area of the site. As far as the existing site that we're considering and the other areas where there has been felling and development actually happened, those, as far as Scottish Forestry are concerned, are considered still ancient woodland and PAWS. So this complete site is considered a woodland rather than a developed site. I hope that helps.
No, thank you very much. That was clear. Members, do we have any more questions for Mr. Gilmartin and Mr. Patterson? Okay.
Sorry, that's Scott.
Scott stands for that. Katie, would you like to come back on any of the points that have been raised?
No, I think we've covered it.
Okay, thank you. Members, just be very clear, is there any more questions for the applicant or the agent? And if there's not, gentlemen, thank you very much. Could I ask you to retake your seats over there, please? Thank you. Okay, members, we'll now move to discussion and debate. Is there anybody who would like to start off? Eleanor McIntosh.
I'm not willing to let this agricultural ground bit go, because I don't think it's right that we're correcting one wrong with another wrong. And I heard what David was saying about, oh, but nothing's been set yet, but all the talk is about the compensatory planting taking place in this field. So I just want a view from David or Peter. Am I right in thinking that that's what we're doing? We're trying to correct one wrong by making another wrong.
I mean, I can come in initially if that's okay, convener, and then if Peter wants to add, then obviously you can do that. I mean, that certainly isn't the intention. I mean, the wording of the condition is that an updated compensatory planting plan needs to be prepared and submitted. That needs to provide an area of no less than 1.6 hectares in size. So this is, sorry, condition 4, I should say, members. And it also requires to be in accordance with, process for preparing a woodland creation application as set out in Scottish Forestry guidance as well. So there would be a requirement, obviously, to look at the detail of the scheme that's proposed by way of compensatory planting. That would require to be approved. It would also require consultation with Scottish Forestry, for example, as well. So if there was a reason that it shouldn't be in the location that's currently proposed, then it could potentially, in its final form, be an alternative location. And I think the applicant's made clear that there is other land that could potentially be used. So what has been provided is an indication that it is possible to deliver a level of compensatory planting of that scale. The final location of that is yet to be confirmed, and I certainly wouldn't see it as being trying to correct one wrong with another wrong, Fiona.
Do you want to come back on it?
Is there any way that we can strengthen that condition then to say that the compensatory planting shouldn't be on agricultural and by ground as per our own policy?
Yeah, I mean, I think if members were minded to do that, we could include reference to that within the condition.
I haven't looked for support for that yet, but the applicant did say that they had other ground that could be used.
Okay, thank you. Mike Williamson.
Yeah, just given what you've just said there, and I take it, therefore, if other sites are going to be possibly proposed or brought forward, how do we know that the compensatory plan or planting will be suitable for that type of ground that's going on, or is that something that's yet to be agreed, the type of planting that will be going into that ground?
Again, the condition requires the scheme to be prepared. So this is a compensatory plan to be prepared by and implemented under supervision of a suitably qualified forestry consultant. It would, and the Park Authority would require to approve that. So it would be informed by an appropriate specialist, and obviously that would have regard to conditions and appropriate planting type. There's a reference in there as well at the end of the condition that the type of the compensatory planting should follow national vegetation classification. It should be directed to existing woodland if possible. So that there would be a pretty robust process associated with planning and delivering that scheme.
Thank you. Steve McElroy.
Yeah, thanks. I suppose my concern is that this was an ancient woodland site. So if there is to be compensatory planting, I really think that needs to be next to an existing area of ancient woodland. That way, those areas are joined together, and whatever goes beyond the trees in terms of the habitat can then take time and hopefully move into that attempt at habitat creation. But I have to say, this does look very willful destruction of ancient woodland to me. I'm really sorry to say that to the developer, but from the permissions that I can see to the end result here, which included major reprofiling of ground, this feels like a pretty major act of destroying an ancient woodland. Now, it may not have looked like that to the developer, but it is regarded as that officially. So therefore, I'm deeply concerned that this has happened, and I therefore feel that whatever compensation is done has to be significant to attempt to redress what's happened here. And as I say, I'm not putting blame anywhere. It's a mistake that can be made, but I do believe that the compensatory planting should be substantial and adjacent to an existing area of ancient woodland in an attempt to make up in the long term what has potentially been lost.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Hannah Grist.
Hi. So following up on Steve's point there, which I agree with. Maybe it's a question for one of the planning team, but if this application had been granted before, is this the same level of compensatory planting that would have been calculated for a kind of pre-application approval? And is there any mechanism for, given this is retrospective and might not have been granted in advance, a kind of higher level of compensatory planting, kind of following Steve's point, to kind of make up for what has been lost? So it's not quite. Did that make sense as a question?
Dave, would you like to come in on that, please?
Yeah, I can try and answer, convener. I think the premise is that there is a, and as Katie drew out, there's a strong presumption against the removal of ancient woodland unless there's a public interest, overriding public interest. So in general terms, it wouldn't be acceptable. Guidance and policy is clear that where it is acceptable, then there isn't a prescribed level of compensatory planting, but the implementation guidance that runs alongside Scottish Government's control of woodland removal policy effectively says that it should be higher than the amount of woodland that's lost, so it should be compensatory planting at a greater level than what is lost. In this instance, what's proposed is 5 times the area that is lost, so it would be kind of broadly compliant with that requirement, albeit ordinarily it wouldn't have met that strong presumption against, as a point of principle. But what we're trying to do here is, as Katie, I think, drew out, is to deal with the situation that we have and to get the best possible outcome out of that.
Okay, thank you. Fiona McLean.
Thanks, convener. I'm very much the same view as Steve. I think it's so very sad that ancient woodland has been removed and obviously cannot be replaced. Like, compensatory planting will not compensate for what has been lost, certainly not for many years. It's been damaging to biodiversity and there's clearly no public benefit to it. And I'm concerned that this, sets a precedent in a way that it comes in for planning permission after the deed is done, and there's no recourse. And I know I've asked this before about in terms of can there be penalties for this sort of thing, and I know there can't be, but I have a concern that that we're enabling this sort of thing to happen, and I just find it really sad to actually have this application coming in at this stage. But anything we can do to try and retrieve the situation at all through the compensatory planning, and I agree with Steve, I think it's much better for it to be actually beside the current ancient woodland. So yeah, just wanted to get it out there that I think it's really sad that this has actually happened.
Thank you, Fiona. Pete Cosgrove.
I wonder if Scott can help address Eleanor's kind of concern with your knowledge of the site. Do you feel that there's capacity for the replacement of the lost trees in areas that aren't prime agricultural land, which I think is Eleanor's concern? I just would be interested to sort of explore that, because there's a lot of disquiet, I think, about what's happened and where trees will go, and I wonder if you feel that there is going to be sufficient capacity elsewhere. The obvious capacity would be the removal of an estate track or something like that, which is within a woodland area but isn't woodland, and that kind of thing was where I was kind of where my question's aimed.
Thank you, Pete. Scott, would you like to come in?
Yeah, I can do. I think the current proposal and the location of the proposal is is very close to existing pause woodland and quite close to ancient woodland. That so it's also so the entire site is including the shed is actually within Capercaillie woodland. So the Craigmore a Capercaillie woodland. So we're looking for delivering this kind of woodland to be as close to the existing kind of sort of boundary of Craigmore as possible, to fill in those kind of sort of gaps, but also to deliver species that are going to be beneficial to Capercaillie and other priority species in the area. This actual location is pretty good as far as I would have said. It may have an agricultural kind of use in the past, but actually is as an impact on biodiversity. Planting in other areas potentially could be more detrimental to biodiversity. In this location, it delivers multiple benefits, and it would still need to go through Scottish Forestry's assessments kind of in there. But as far as biodiversity impacts, it's pretty good in this location. I hope that helps.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Members, would anyone else like to speak on this? Bill Lobbin.
I think what concerns me about this is all we're talking about is compensation. You can't compensate for what has actually happened here. And obviously what we've heard is there are alleged further breaches of planning in this particular estate. And I think we need to leave the applicant under, I suppose, with the clear knowledge that we're not particularly happy about retrospective applications like this. I think it's disgraceful. It's something you would expect for someone who's putting up a garden shed. This is a fairly substantial local estate, and I would expect better from them. And we need to make that plain.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Would anyone else like to add any comments? Members, I think that we are definitely in a difficult position here where nobody on the committee is particularly happy with the situation in front of us. It's been a really difficult situation for planners. Has been outlined there. We are looking at other conditions to do with the compensatory planting, as was described by Eleanor. At this stage, I mean, I am happy to propose that we defer a decision on this today until officers are able to come back to us with a plan for the compensatory planting, which takes into account Eleanor McIntosh's point about the agricultural land. And then at that point, we would possibly be better placed to make a decision. So we look for a seconder on that. Well, seconded by Eleanor. Is there anyone else, anything they would like to say about this?
Lauren is ahead of you.
I'll go to Mike Williamson first, and then I'll come into.
Okay, so sorry, it was just also to try and incorporate some form of hydroseeding around the site, if around the embankments of the site as well, to try and get some sort of grass cover around the edges of the embankments too. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mike. I'm sure officers can take that into consideration. Lauren.
Thanks. No, just to kind of share my colleagues' views on this. And the more and more I hear, the worse and worse it gets. But just to support your way forward, Russell, because I'd quite like to see that plan before I could make a final decision, because I think the point that Eleanor raises is an important one.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. Steve McElwright.
Yeah, thanks. Just for me, if there are other breaches that are going to come before this planning committee, I think I'd like to see them holistically as a whole and not one by one, which is what it sounds like it's heading towards. I think that gives us a better chance to have an overview of the breaches that have potentially been made and what needs to be done to redress them. I would much prefer that than just one at a time, because then that potentially starts to feel like death by 1,000 cuts.
Okay, thank you, Steve. That's been noted by officers. Does anyone else like to say anything about this before we move on? Oh, I beg your pardon. Hey, Anne Ross.
Thank you. Just in context of what Steve's just said, I understand why he would want them breaches bunched together, but am I not correct in that we have to consider each application on its own merits? Therefore, we should not be considering, whilst that we're aware of other breaches, we have to consider the breach on this instance on its own merits.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's possibly a fair comment, Anne. I mean, all I said was it'd be noted by officers, and then we will take their advice going forward and their recommendation the next time.
Because I would feel compromised given what my understanding of how I have to consider planning applications. I would feel compromised. What's been asked for is completely against everything that I've been, the training that we've had. Thanks.
Yeah, I'll let Dave come in. As I say, I just said it had been noted. I didn't say, but I'll let Dave come in just now, Anne.
Thank you, Convener. Yeah, we do need to determine every application on its merits, and we do need to deal with the application that is with us at the moment. I think in terms of any future applications that might come forward, then obviously they also need to be determined on merit as well. They're not matters for today and not matters for this application. So we need to deal with this application on its individual merit.
Okay, thank you, Anne. Steve McElwright.
Yeah, I accept that, but I would like an overview of the breaches that may have been may have taken place on this estate. I think it's only fair that we should hear that and not necessarily hear any planning permissions that applied for that are attempting to deal with that. But I think if there are some other serious breaches, I think an overview of that would be helpful.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Anne, is your hand still up there?
Yes, it is. I think if we had that, I would feel compromised, to be quite honest, when we had applications coming in front of us. I have to deal with each application on its own merits. That's what I keep coming back to, and that's what I'll stand by, and that is how I will operate. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Anne. That's noted. Thank you. Jiva Blackett.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to agree with Anne. I mean, I don't want future applications to be mired by this one, which is appalling. I mean, I'm so fed up with retrospective planning applications, and, I didn't think I needed planning permission. Well, just check. But I don't want to hear all the other breaches along with this. I just want to deal with this planning application when it comes back to it as it is. So I support what Anne said.
Okay, thank you, Jiva. Anne, is your hand still up?
Yes, it is. Thank you. I would just like to say that if that is how we went forward to operate with having a list of breaches or whatever, I would not feel competent taking part in any application, because as I come back to, Jiva is 100% right. We have to consider each application on its own merits, and I would feel compromised and would therefore have to withdraw. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that, Anne. As I said to Steve and I said to yourself and Jiva, they're all good points, and all I said was they were noted by officers, but I'll let Dave come back in just now.
Thank you, Convener. Just to try and bring some clarity to this and maybe just draw it to a conclusion, hopefully. I mean, we need to deal with planning applications that are made on merit. That is a well understood principle. As regards to any further breaches, we deal with enforcement issues generally in confidential session. So any further breaches on the estate would be dealt with in that way, and if they led to future applications, then they would be dealt with on merit as we are dealing with this one. I think the issue that arose around that was that some of the consultee comments that I think Paul Gibb referred to earlier were causing a bit of confusion about what the status of this particular application was. And so, yeah, any breaches are a matter for sort of confidential session, planning applications dealt with on merit, and that's what we need to do with this one.
Okay, thank you, Dave. I'll take in Peter. Thank you.
Yes, and just to reiterate, the motion is to defer pending submission of the detailed plan for compensatory planting, and the motion is not to do with any other planning investigations or enforcement issues. So even though members may have made comments on these other alleged breaches, that's not part of the motion.
Okay, thank you, Peter. That's very clear. If anyone is content, I propose to bring this to a close with the motion as outlined by Peter. Are members content with that? Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Gilmartin and Mr. Patterson. You may leave just now if you wish, or you can stay if you wish, but I'm sure you might not want to, but you can leave. Thank you very much. Members, we'll take a 5-minute comfort break just now. Thank you. Okay, members, thank you. We will reconvene. Paul Gibb has declared an interest in this next item and has left the room. So item 6 on our agenda is an application for detailed planning permission. It's a change of use of putting green to form 12 motorhome pitches and associated works, including formation of vehicular access at Ballater Golf Club, Victoria Road, Ballater. This again will be introduced by Katie Crerar, and the recommendation is to approve subject to conditions. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, convener. The application site here, as outlined in red, is located within Ballater, just within Ballater Golf Club on the southwestern edge of the town. I think this map's a little bit clearer, and this shows that there's housing to the north, around the sort of north of the site, around the northwest and northeastern edges, and then has the golf club to the south. It's adjacent to the golf club's car park on the southwestern edge, which you can see there just at the bottom of the red line boundary. And the site itself fronts onto Victoria Road and is opposite the golf club building, bowling green and tennis courts, which you can see there on the southeastern side. The site is just over an acre and has been used as a seasonal putting green. It's predominantly grass with hedging around the eastern boundaries. It's open to the northwest and has 6 mature fir trees along the southwestern boundary adjacent to the golf club car park. Again, which you can see on the plan, on the aerial image there. There's no formal access onto the site, but it lies on and is accessible from Victoria Road and the golf club's car park. So this proposal seeks planning to create 12 motorhome or camper van pitches, along with associated drainage, wastewater disposal, bin store and access. The proposal's been developed to help secure Ballater's Golf Club's long-term economic sustainability, as well as responding to the shortfall in regulated motorhome and camper van accommodation in and around Ballater. Access to the site will be taken from Victoria Road, which is along in this image, the bottom of the site, and it'll be taken from Victoria Road via a new one-way service road, which will form a rectangular loop that you can see on the site there, through the site and back onto Victoria Road again, so you can see the entrance and the exit there. The service loop road will be hardcore surfaced, and the entry and exit junctions onto Victoria Road will be tarmacked. The 12 motorhome pitches, as you can see there, are positioned around the loop road. Each site will measure nearly 6 metres by 6 metres wide by 9 metres long. The pitches will be gravelled and edged with logs. There will be a bin store and waste disposal enclosure located close to the exit point, just on the right-hand side above the exit. You can see there on the plan, and there will be 7 double socket electrical hookups located between pitches. The exact locations are to be confirmed, and there's also 7 bollard lights, which you can see indicated on the plan around kind of the inside of the loop road there. The site will operate seasonally from March to October, in line with the existing nearby Ballater Caravan Park, and will only accommodate self-contained motorhomes that have onboard facilities. Each pitch is a single parking space, and no caravans or tents will be allowed. The site will enforce similar operating rules to the existing Ballater Caravan Park, such as dogs being on leads at all times and no noise after 10 p.m. So this is the landscaping plan. So the site will be landscaped with a mixture of beech, privet and wildlife hedging planted between the pitches. Further wildlife hedging is proposed along the northwestern edge of the site. And the 6 non-native Douglas fir trees along the southwestern edge of the site will be removed and replaced with beech hedging and a 1.5 metre high timber fence on the outer edge. So that's kind of to the left-hand side of the site plan here, or along the left-hand edge. Most of the trees and hedging along the northeast and southeastern sides of the site will be retained, so that's along Victoria Road and as shown here on the right-hand side boundary. And there'll be an additional 21 trees planted across the site as well, which again are marked. This is just the tree protection plan, which just shows you in green all of the trees and hedging that will be retained there, and on the left-hand side you can see the trees to be removed. And this is just a more detailed look at the waste disposal and bin enclosure. So it'll be a small enclosure adjacent to the exit that will house the chemical toilet disposal unit, and there'll be a place to store bins. So just looking at the site here, this is the entrance to the golf club on the left-hand side. So this is Victoria Road extending down here. And on the right-hand side, you can see the southeastern boundary of the site. So this is the site where there'll be the entry and exit points. So that's the southeastern edge of the site again. So again, much of that, the existing sort of planting there will be retained, although some will be removed for those entry and exit points. This is the view from the southern corner of the site looking north. So on the right-hand side, you can see that's Victoria Road coming in and the existing sort of hedging. On the left there, you can see the existing trees to be removed, and to the left of that is the golf club's car park. And then this is onto the site itself. You can see it's largely, it's laid to grass, and you can see the neighbouring residential properties to the north of the site, around the north east and the northwestern edges. So this is just from the western corner of the site. So again, on the right hand side, you can see the car park and the golf club building straight ahead, and on the left hand side, that's the sort of, I'd say, like the back side of the edge of the site. So there's currently no screening, and that you've got the residential properties further beyond to the left. And this is the view back down the southeastern side. So this is looking back down Victoria Road. Again, this is where the entrance and exit points will be, and on the right hand side you've got bowling green and tennis courts opposite. Okay, so in terms of the principle of the development, the site lies within the settlement boundary of Ballater, in close walking distance of the town centre. It seeks to provide additional short-term motorhome accommodation, thereby helping to provide a wider range of visitor accommodation and supporting the attraction of Ballater as a tourist destination, which is one of the settlement objectives. The Community Council has highlighted that there's a significant shortage of local tourist accommodation, including for motorhomes who often park in other car parks in the town or surrounding areas, particularly in the peak season, which aren't suitably equipped or may not be suitable for other reasons. The proposal will therefore provide much needed additional designated parking, which is exclusively for the use of self-contained motorhomes and camper vans. The development site lies largely within the context of Ballater Golf Club, where there's existing activity, and subject to other material considerations is acceptable in principle. Flood risk. In respect of flood risk, there is a well-documented history of flooding in Ballater from the River Dee, and the development site is at risk of flooding based on SEPA's future flood risk maps, and would be fully inundated in a 1 in 200 year, including climate change event. SEPA and Aberdeenshire Council's flood team also both highlight that the use of the site for motorhomes and camper vans would fall within the most vulnerable category in SEPA's land use vulnerability guidance. Whilst it doesn't explicitly list motorhomes or camper vans within it, it's accepted that these most closely align with a holiday caravan, chalet and camping sites under that category. Taking both of these aspects into account, the applicant's flood risk assessment highlights that it's easier for motorhomes and camper vans to evacuate the proposed pitches compared to camper vans, tents or mobile homes, which require a greater degree of dismantling and a separate vehicle to remove them. In addition, there are no buildings or permanent structures proposed on the site that could be affected. The only movable thing would be the bins but they could be moved in the event of a flood warning. In addition, there are already a number of flood risk management protocols in place in Ballater, which are also in place at the nearby Ballater Caravan Park. These include flood forecast warnings, which are issued by SEPA in collaboration with the Met Office and provide a 3 to 5 day outlook. Flood forecast warnings are issued to the emergency services, who then determine the level of risk to the general public, and any action would be taken. When a significant risk is identified, many local organisations, including the Community Council and the Ballater Caravan Park, are informed. In addition, Ballater Golf Club office bearers also subscribe to SEPA's regional flood alerts. It's argued that this system has proven to be reliable and effective in giving maximum time warning of potential flood events. The development would also adopt the same flood alert and evacuation procedures as the nearby Ballater Caravan Park, which requires to evacuate a larger number of pitches over a longer period of time. And these procedures include not taking any bookings or allowing any vehicles onto the site if a flood warning is issued. Also appointing designated responsible persons who would be responsible for initiating site evacuation in the event of of a flood warning, and also coordinating safe clearance with Ballater Flood Issue Group and emergency services. Another point is customer notification of flood alert and evacuation protocols at the time of booking and when they arrive at the site, so they will have all of that information up front, and also providing visitors on site with the contact details of all the designated responsible persons who will be available 24/7. It's also proposed that the site will operate seasonally, aligning with the existing Ballater Caravan Park to reduce exposure to flooding in the winter months. It's accepted that SEPA and Aberdeenshire Council's flood risk team are both clear that requiring flood warning or flood evacuation plans is not an appropriate way to enable new development. However, the applicant has nevertheless demonstrated an understanding of the risk of flooding at the site and set out a series of measures, all of which are already in operation within Ballater, that could be used to address the risk and help enable the site to be operated and managed safely. These measures can be secured through condition if planning permission is granted. The proposal is also of a limited scale, with no significant structures that would reduce floodplain capacity or increase flood risk for others during a flood event. And the applicant has confirmed that the limited on-site infrastructure, which would be the electric hookup points and lights, can be designed to be flood resilient. So in this respect, the proposal has sought to respond to most of the requirements set out in paragraph 3 of NPF 4's Policy 22. In respect of landscape design and amenity, the development site lies within the existing built fabric of Ballater and is visually discrete. The Park Authority's landscape advisor is satisfied that the proposal would not affect the special landscape qualities of the national park. In broader design terms, it's considered that the proposal complements the setting of the development and is sympathetic to the character of the surrounding area. The site lies adjacent to residential properties, and the landscaping will help integrate the development within its surroundings and provide natural screening and privacy for both visitors and adjacent neighbours. The limited nature of development on the site and the proposed landscaping will help to ensure the character and appearance of the conservation area is preserved. A number of representations have expressed concern about the impact on residential amenity of the adjacent properties from overlooking, noise and potential for antisocial behaviour. As noted above, the proposal incorporates improved landscaping and screening around all boundaries, which will contain the site and create privacy for both residents and visitors. There will be on-site waste disposal provision, bins and water to ensure the camper vans can be entirely self-contained. It's also proposed that the site will operate under clear protocols via a site management plan, which will be conditioned to ensure neighbouring residential amenity is protected. And these protocols will include, amongst other things, as mentioned before, things like keeping dogs on leads at all times and avoiding noise after 10 p.m, for example. In respect of ecology, no protected species were recorded on site. However, red squirrel have been recorded close to the site, and the 6 Douglas fir, which are to be felled, could provide potential locations for a dray, so pre-commencement checks will be required. And a condition has also been included to avoid any potential impacts on breeding birds within the trees, and shrubs around the edges of the site. Whilst the 6 fir trees to be removed for safe, whilst there are the 6 mature trees which are to be removed for safety reasons, the proposed landscaping plan also includes compensatory planting of 21 trees, which will compensate for that loss, and the additional hedging will support and enhance biodiversity on the site, and therefore the application complies with the relevant natural heritage policies. In terms of access, the development lies on an existing adopted road serving the golf club, and Aberdeenshire Council's road team are satisfied that the access and egress points are acceptable and can accommodate the proposed development. Concerns have been raised by representees about the increase in traffic volume and capacity. However, taking into account the council's response and the existing car parking capacity already on site, it's considered that the road and on-site capacity is adequate. The proposed development is designed to accommodate a maximum of 12 motorhomes at any time, and a planning condition will restrict it to the occupancy to this level. The site's also close to local amenities, and there's suitable access, parking, and adequate parking for its visitors, and it would encourage active travel to and from the development site. So as such, we're content that it complies with the relevant development plan provisions in respect of access. So to conclude, this development meets most of the relevant policies of the development plan and would provide 12 motorhome pitches on a discrete site in Ballater, which may help to address concerns about motorhomes using other informal stopping places in and around Ballater during peak season. And these are sites that may not be properly equipped or may also be located in flood risk areas. Whilst the flood risk and vulnerable use classification are fully acknowledged, the applicant has demonstrated an understanding of risk of flooding on the site and has proposed measures to address the risk and help enable the site to be operated and managed safely. And these measures are already in operation within Ballater and Ballater Caravan Park. The site would be exclusively used by motorhomes, which could be removed from the site relatively easily. If there's a flood risk warning, the site would simply be closed to new visitors. No one would be allowed on, and the procedures would be in place to evacuate any motorhomes already on site. There's no significant built development which would affect floodplain capacity or increase the risk elsewhere. The limited infrastructure, which is the electric hookups and lights, as mentioned, would be designed to be flood resilient, and the bins can be relocated. It's recognised that the decision in this case is based on fine margins and the weight attached to the policies and information related to flood risk. Whilst it's accepted that the proposal doesn't entirely meet the relevant flood risk policies, it meets all other relevant policies and on balance is recommended for approval subject to conditions. Due to the outstanding objection from SEPA on flood risk grounds, the application will require to be notified to Scottish ministers if the committee support the recommendation for approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Katie. We'll move to questions, and first is Bill Lobbin.
Sorry, Chairman, that's just been answered by Katie. It was about the fact that this will be reported, I assume, to Scottish Minister.
Okay, thank you. Mike Williamson.
Thank you. My question is around about if we are minded to agree this proposal, the precedent that we may be setting. If we could get some advice on that, please.
Convener, I would maybe refer that to David or Peter Ferguson to answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Peter, would you like to come in?
Yes, in planning decisions that there's no concept of precedent, so one decision does not bind the planning authority in subsequent decisions. Having said that, there is an expectation of consistent application of policy and guidance, so there is a tension between those, but strictly speaking, there is no concept of precedent.
Okay, thank you. Sandy Bremner.
Thank you. A key issue is obviously having an effective flood warning and evacuation plan. So I'm questioning whether the proposed plan could be further tightened up to be even more effective, specifically on condition 3E, how all customer contact details will be recorded, and operating at an extended absence secure key holding system to allow relocation of vehicles if the owners are absent. Now, the D responds very quickly to sudden inundations, as we know. So the SEPA flood alert and warning process does kick in quickly. The question is whether the evacuation system can be robust enough in situations where the owners of these vehicles have parked up in the short term but are significantly absent from the area, as is often the case. So the question is whether a key holding system can be included for short-term stays so that vehicles can be moved at short notice in these circumstances.
I think that's it. We could absolutely make that change to that point. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. Jackie Brereton.
Thank you. Given the closeness of the plans to local residences and the comments that have been made by local residents in the village, did the golf club give any consideration to an alternative site? And if so, what were the options?
Shall I answer? So, I mean, in terms of this application, we very much assessed what is in front of us. That might be a question that the applicant or the agent can answer. But we have only assessed and been aware of the application for this site.
Okay, thank you. Mike Williamson.
Yeah, thank you. I was just thinking further ahead here about our policies going forward. I mean, Katie mentioned about the variation between caravans, etc., and my question is I was wondering, do we need greater clarity within the policies about what we actually mean by motorhomes and what can and can't go onto some of these sites?
I mean, I think in terms of this site specifically, it is strictly for motorhomes or self-contained motorhomes or campervans, so they must have their own onboard facilities. And how that is strictly defined is something is probably maybe a little bit difficult, but quite clearly there is a clear difference between, say, a caravan that is parked and left than a motorhome that is entirely one vehicle. And I think this is certainly only intended for, and it should only be vehicle, one single vehicle per pitch. And that vehicle, it can't be it can't be two parts, or it can't be a tent and a car. That will not be allowed. But I think, the implementation of that will be for the golf club who will be managing this. But certainly from our perspective, we are conditioning that it can only be used for a individual campervan or motorhome.
Okay, thank you, Katie. Jiva Blackett.
Yeah, thank you, convener. Standing Order 24 says that any member may also propose a motion for a site visit where they deem this necessary for the effective determination of a planning application. A motion for a site visit may only be proposed after the officer's presentation on the application and any points of clarification on the officer's presentation have been dealt with. And I wonder if now is the moment for me to propose that and to give my reasons why. I'm open to guidance on whether now is time.
Okay, thank you, Jiva. I'll hand over to Dave and he can give some advice.
Well, I suppose members may have other questions for Katie. I'm not sure quite whether we've got to the end of that question in session at the moment, but I suppose if a member was minded to propose a motion that it is for a site visit and to defer the application for that site visit to take place, and it is possible to do that under that paragraph of the standing orders. Yeah, but as I say, I think there may be other questions for Katie.
I can't see hands in the room. I can't see hands up in the room. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, there there actually are one or two more questions in the room, Jeeva.
So if you could come back to me.
Yes, I will do. Although I do actually wonder if we're going to have a proposal for a site visit. Does that not negate the need for any more questions at the moment? But I'll go to Derek Ross just now.
It was Sandy's proposal for the condition. Some clarification on that, Sandy. Are you proposing that the keys are held by the golf club for short term? But you only said for short term. What about someone who's staying slightly longer? It would have to have some kind of condition there as well. Sorry, I'm not trying to confuse things, Sandy.
Sandy, come back in.
Yeah, I think condition 3E deals with that eventuality. This is to close the gap in situations of short-term use.
Pete Cosgrove.
Last week I did emergency river rescue training and I learned quite a lot, and it was very interesting about how to deal with flood events when working in or being by a river. There's an app called River App, which can be set up on the SEPA gauging station sites, which alerts you when the rivers reach a certain level. And it's much more personalised than waiting for SEPA to issue a warning. And with SEPA issue warnings 3 days in ahead, this does this by the minute. So if there is a sudden big downpour in the upper reaches, you can find out straight away by taking a gauging station above Ballater and having a predetermined thing. So it's just something that I've only just started to learn about, and it's a very good way for people who are working or living next to water to get a personalised alert the moment waters reach a certain threshold, and that will be something to consider. Anyway.
Okay, thank you. Katie, could I ask a question about the lighting, please? Just slightly change the subject. Condition 7. It seems to focus on the flood resilience of the lighting. I just wondered, are these LED lights programmable so that they would dim at a certain time of night, so that it's not extremely bright for neighbours all night?
I'm not sure, but that, because we'll be requiring or conditioning the final details of the electrical hookups, that we could also include that as something for it to get finer details on, to make sure that that there is some, maybe it's lower level lighting in the evening. I mean, our landscape advisor was content that it was low level lighting and that it shouldn't have an impact, but we could include that, maybe the final details.
Okay, thank you. Eleanor.
Katie, under the landscape design and amenity, you said that the landscape officer was content it didn't affect the aims of the national park. But what about the aims of Ballater, the village itself? How much encroach into green spaces is happening? Is there still sufficient in Ballater to maintain its character and its likability factor?
I mean, we believe so. This site isn't designated as a formal as a protected green space, but I think I think this use of the site, which will, with landscaping, it's the development on site is very minimal, that we don't believe that it will have a substantial impact, or it will affect certainly the in terms of visually in the landscape and the setting of Ballater. There are other green spaces still in Ballater, and we have those protected for that reason, but this particular site has not been allocated for that.
Okay, thank you, members. Are there any other questions just now? Mike Williamson.
Sorry, I'll make sure this is my last question. It's really about disposal of waste, and I'm assuming there'll be no disposal of waste taking part on this site, but where will people be expected to dispose of the waste?
So there is a chemical waste disposal within that little enclosure at the exit point of the site. So, and that will connect through to the public sewers connected, and then it's also got a separate surface water soakaway on the site.
So in the event of a flood, therefore, Katie, will that be secure to spillages or water ingress, which
so my understanding is that the exact type would be the type of disposal and the specifications of it would be advised by SEPA, because again, this is absolutely not my area of expertise, but you can get some that don't have like a back, that don't allow water to sort of back up. I understand the applicant has more of an understanding of it, but I guess with anything like that within Ballater, this won't be the only site that obviously would be encountering this issue. So everything would be done, to make sure that the waste disposal is as resilient as possible. Yeah.
Hey, thanks, Katie. Derek Ross.
It was going back to a point that Michael made. Right, we found out that we can't have tents on the site, and we found out that we can't have caravans on the site. But what about something like a VW camper van or something like that doesn't have a toilet facility? Will they be allowed on the site? Or I mean, there are different types of camper van. We encountered this problem when we were going to be having in Murray, when we were going to be having car parks for camper vans, and people said, well, most camper vans have their own toilets, and they do, but there are certain camper vans that don't have their own toilet facilities. I mean, this is maybe a question for the applicants. Will they be allowing those onto the site?
Yeah, I think that probably would be a question for the applicants. I mean, my understanding, and the application is being assessed as such, that it will be purely for camper vans that have their own facilities, because there is not on-site facilities available.
Thank you, Katie.
Okay, thank you, members. At this stage, I will go back to Jiva Blackett.
Sorry, Anne's put her hand up.
Beg your pardon, I didn't see Anne's hand. Sorry, Anne. Anne Ross.
Sorry, never to be forgotten. My query is then, listening to they don't have facilities for disposal of their chemical toilets or etc. Where is the nearest disposal access?
It does.
For them?
Sorry.
Oh, it does.
It does have waste disposal. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jiva Blackett.
Yeah, thank you. Jackie touched on an area of concern that I have, and that is the neighbouring properties. And a number of the objectors have said that they will be overlooked by this. Now, we know people have no right to a view, but you do have a right to privacy. I'm also, as an Aberdeenshire council, listening to what Aberdeenshire Council flood team are saying, and they have concerns about this. So as we're in Ballater in 2 weeks' time, I'd like to propose that we go and have a look and we get a really clear understanding of all the implications of this site before we make a recommendation whether to approve or not. And I seek a seconder.
Okay, thank you, Jiva. Officers would have to look at the logistics to see if it would be possible to do it in 2 weeks' time, but the basic premise is that you're proposing a site visit, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a seconder for Jiva's proposal?
Seems we don't.
I don't think we have a seconder, Jiva.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on now to we have two members here to speak for the applicants, Neil Duncan and Alistair Bean, the agent. Gentlemen, could I ask you to take your seats over here, please? Thank you. Gentlemen, you have 10 minutes to make a presentation, and I will alert you after 9 minutes, and in your own time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Good morning. So thank you for the opportunity to present today. My name is Neil Duncan, the president of Ballister Golf Club. I'm here to outline our proposal and explain how it supports both the club's future and the wider community. Joining me is Alistair. Alistair is a surveyor, a club volunteer, who's acting on behalf of the golf club. So just a bit of context about the golf club. It's a well-established club, built on land donated by Invercargill Estate. Over the years, it's grown into more than just a sporting venue. It offers golf, bowling, tennis, curling. We have a riverside walk that's actively walked in the summer, both serving residents and visitors. It's an important asset in the community. Why change is needed? Like many golf clubs in Scotland, we are facing increasing financial challenges. Membership numbers have fallen. Average age of players continues to rise. Younger people are harder to attract and retain, while many golfers now prefer flexible arrangements rather than long-term commitments. At the same time, maintenance costs have increased substantially following the COVID pandemic. For our club specifically, membership has dropped by 25% over the past decade. Although numbers have recently stabilised, income has declined and operational pressures remain. Engaging a younger audience continues to be a key difficulty. We've not stood still in these issues. We've improved our communication with our members and sought professional marketing advice. Flexible membership packages have been introduced alongside beginner offers to encourage participation. Our social calendar has been expanded through partnerships, including with the Scottish Golf Union. We've also consulted with our members directly on how our land might be used more effectively. So we had an ideas session with our members. We then brought those ideas to a subsequent meeting where we qualified all of their ideas into a business case. Then the members voted on basically this option that's been presented here today. Despite these efforts, financial strain continues. We are facing significant upcoming costs, including a 250,000 irrigation upgrade. Over the past 2 years, the club has recorded an operating loss of £38,000. Now, this excludes fundraising. So the last 2 years, we've had to effectively run 2 major fundraisers just to balance the books of the golf club, raising £56,000. So our proposal: to address these challenges, we are proposing a modest and carefully planned development, repurposing an underused and uneconomical putting green into 12 motorhome pitches. We will only operate with motorhomes and camper vans, not towing caravans. To answer the point earlier about self-contained, yeah, the vans must be self-contained, meaning they have their own facilities. The site sits fully within existing golf club land and has been designed at an operational scale with low density. Facilities include electric hookups, on-site wastewater services. Our original plan excluded wastewater. The assumption was we were going to use the existing caravan park, but on the advice of the environmental officer, we've taken that, so we're going to put our own facilities, grey and black water. The operations will follow established procedures already successfully used at Ballister Caravan Park. These include measures for noise control, pet management, and a clear system for flood risk awareness and evacuation if required. To answer the point earlier about secure keys, that is the procedure within the existing caravan park. You'll use a secondary set of keys. Specifically on noise control, the existing caravan park lies 10 metres away from houses on Anderson Road. Strict procedures are in place to manage noise, and these same operational procedures will be adopted by the golf club. Ballister benefits from SEPA, a SEPA warning system. It's been in place since 2016 and continues to work well. Motorhomes and our proposed development would be approximately 250 metres further away from the river than the existing caravan park and could be driven away at very short notice. The proposal development acknowledges the presence of flood risk under SEPA MPF4, but provides a robust and well-established mitigation strategy. So this is not avoidance, this is mitigation. Reliable early warning SEPA warning systems, direct local emergency coordination, clearly defined evacuation procedures, strict operational controls, and just to correct the point earlier, Katie, seasonal restriction of use, it's actually from December to February. So it is December to February, which is per the existing caravan park. So taking due consideration of these points, Ballater Golf Club consider that the land, which is low risk of flooding, with an extremely low risk of motorhomes being on site during a flood event, can be safely developed, operated and managed as a motorhome site. Community and economic benefits. This proposal brings tangible benefits. It helps to secure 21 local jobs linked to the club, supports local businesses, not just in peak seasons. Income generated will be reinvested into maintaining and improving the club's facilities. We anticipate over 6,000 visitors annually. That's what we currently have, contributing to more than £1 million to the local economy. And this strengthens Ballater's position as a sustainable tourism attraction. Landscape and amenity. We have engaged with Nigel Estelle on a professional landscaping plan. The current area is 50% screened. We believe in 3 years' time, you'll not even know the caravans are there with screening. Camper vans, sorry. Policy and planning context. We feel the proposal aligns closely with the objectives of the Cairngorms National Park Authority. It supports tourism and provides managed accommodation in a suitable location. It also helps address informal and informal unmanaged motorhome parking in Ballater, which is a problem. Crucially, it contributes to the strengthening the resilience of the rural economy in Ballater. Conclusion. In summary, this is a focused diversification project. It's a practical step towards securing long-term future Ballater Golf Club. It delivers clear economic, community and tourism benefits. The approach is measured with a proven operational system in place to manage the risks effectively, including flooding. We believe this proposal is well aligned with the planning policy and represents a positive investment in the sustainability of both the club and the wider area. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Duncan. Members, do we have any questions for Neil or Alistair? Jiva Blackett.
Yeah, thank you. I have an awful lot of sympathy with your financial predicament, but I am slightly concerned about what the neighbouring properties are saying about being overlooked. Can you tell us a bit more about what you feel about their objections, whether they are going to be overlooked by this?
I mean, Jiva, over a period of time, the landscaping, I mean, right now, there were trees removed down last year. So the residents of the houses had concerns around trees. So those trees were removed at the approval of the golf club. So therefore, the site now is quite open. So this proposal actually increases the privacy because we're putting up more hedging along that boundary.
Okay. How quickly will that hedging grow?
Well, I put hedging in my garden in my house, beech hedge. So I bought it from Deneck Garden Centre just over Christmas time, 6 foot high, and I planted them, and they're now growing and creating a screen in my garden. So there's no reason why we can't do that to get screening very quickly in place between the houses and the proposed site.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anne Ross.
Thank you and good afternoon. Jiva has actually asked the questions regarding screening, and you answered, that you're putting hedging in. But in the interim, how are you going to protect the privacy of the neighbours and also sound as well? How are you with so many camper vans in there? The sound coming from the site is also going to be a factor as far as the neighbours are concerned. Thank you.
I mean, the existing caravan park sits very close to Anderson Road, and there are strict noise control procedures in place. So no noise after 10 o'clock at night. I mean, the area does have partial screening. I mean, there are quite mature trees already on one of the boundaries, and a wall, which will provide, I guess, some level of noise mitigation. I mean, does that help to answer your question?
Partly, thank you, yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Derek Ross.
Thanks very much, Chair. It's going back to that the question I asked before. Is there going to be someone who kind of manages the site and manages the kind of vehicle that comes into the site? Because what I'm worried about is the kind of vehicle that doesn't have toilet facilities within, because there are different types of camper vans, so to speak.
Sure. So what are the conditions? So what are the conditions will be you have to book online. An online booking will clearly state the specification for the van. Then if a van turns up and doesn't have the right specification, they will be asked to vacate. It's as simple as that.
And so that you will have someone managing the facility, basically.
So as part of the meeting we had with the members, we asked our members for support. We have a lot of volunteers at the golf club, so we asked our volunteers if anybody could help to be like a volunteer warden. So maybe spend an hour a month on a rotational basis to oversee and govern this. And we had 30 members put their hand up in a meeting to say they'd be willing to do that. So we've got strong support from members on this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lauren, did you have your hand up?
I did, Convener, but it's been answered. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mike Williamson.
Yeah, I'm just wondering where about the noise impacts, etc., and I'm just trying to figure out whether the golf club would probably need to apply for a caravan site license, where some of this stuff might actually be covered within the licensing agreement at that time. I don't know, but I just suspect that there may be conditions applied to that license.
If I could answer, well, we'd certainly require a caravan license, so whatever is required in that form would be answered. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Jackie Brereton.
Thank you. Yes, just going back to a question asked before, obviously you put a lot of work into this, and in lots of ways it ticks lots of boxes of what's needed, but did you consider any other sites within the footprint of the golf club and the land that you own as an alternative to this one?
Yeah, Jackie, we did. So actually, we had a meeting with the members where they came to us with their ideas. So we had many ideas, everything from Christmas tree factory to accommodation upstairs and a golf club, all sorts of ideas. We also had ideas to put the camper van along the third hole of the golf course. Now, the problem with that is, one is road access, and two is stray golf balls from the golf course itself. That's why these things were ruled out. But essentially, it was the members who brought the ideas to the golf club committee, for us then to qualify them and put them into a business case. Then we had the members vote on the opportunities that had the biggest return for the club. And that's how we've ended up here today.
Okay, thank you. Members, do we have any more questions? Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much. I'd ask you to retake your seats. Thank you very much. I would now like to welcome Angus Davidson to the meeting. Mr. Davidson, if you'd like to take your seat. Mr. Davidson is objecting to this proposal, and Mr. Davidson, you have 10 minutes to make your case, and I will give you a pre-warning at 9 minutes, so in your own time. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Angus Davidson, and I'm speaking as one of the objectors to this planning application. I reside at Arraseg House in Victoria Road in Ballater, and immediately adjacent to the site that is proposed to become an area for 12 motorhome pitches and vehicular access. My boundary is the eastern boundary of the site, so I will be directly affected by this proposed development. There are a number of reasons as to why I am objecting to this application, and the first one concerns the issue of the site itself. This site has been shown to be at risk of flooding based on SEPA's flood maps, and SEPA have stated that the site would be underwater in a 1 in 200 flood event and would represent a significant risk to life. I think it's important for members to note that caravan pitches are reckoned to be one of the most vulnerable land uses in SEPA's guidance, and the application certainly does not meet any of the exceptions in Policy 22 of NPF 4. May I remind the members that SEPA, as a statutory committee, is maintaining an objection to this application, and it will have to be referred to the Scottish Ministers if the committee were to approve this application. Almost equally, Aberdeenshire Council Flood Risk and Coastal Protection Team are also maintaining an objection to this application because it has been shown through their detailed study following Storm Frank that this site and development is at risk of flooding. The council team also make the point that the risk is contrary to the duties set out under the Flood Risk Management Scotland Act. Although there were options put forward, none showed any method of preventing this site from flooding, and it further indicated that surrounding roads would be affected, impeding any movement in and out of the site. Both SEPA and Aberdeenshire Council Flood Team make the point in their objections that it is not an appropriate way to enable new development that is contrary to planning policy and which requires emergency evacuation plans because it is on the floodplain. Notwithstanding the fact that this site is in the most vulnerable category and does not fall into any of the 4 specific exception categories and is contrary to the NPF 4 and the CNPA LDP Policy 10, the applicant has set out their understanding of the risk of flooding in their supporting statement. The CNPA Planning Service, in its recommendation, is being accepted to the applicant's understanding of the risk of flooding by a series of measures that are already in place in Ballater. It is suggested that measures could be conditioned, but that is not an appropriate method where the application itself is outside a number of planning policies. The applicant, through its supporting statement, seeks to placate the obvious concerns that this application is out with policy and in a 1 in 200 year flood risk, which is medium risk. The applicant is suggesting the existing caravan site adheres to the timely SEPA flood alert system and established local evacuation procedures. Then it is okay for this site as well. I would suggest that it is not the same as the caravan site, which is 250 metres away and is not tucked away within residential property in the same way. The existing Ballata caravan site is under greater supervision with a reception on site and the availability of a warden, and is not the same as a disconnected site which is abutted directly by residential properties. I would suggest that it's somewhat fanciful that the applicant might suggest that a site 250 metres away could be managed in the same way as the Ballata Caravan Park, and the ability to manage and oversee this site could be severely compromised, particularly as the proposed park is out of sight of the Ballata Caravan site. This apparent lack of direct supervision would impact on Planning Advice Note PAN 1/2011, which provides guidance for planning to prevent any and limit the adverse effects of noise and therefore prevent loss of residential amenity. My house of Arasaig is only 15 metres northeast of the proposed development, and I have lived there for 40 years and have enjoyed only a passive putting green next door. This area has been infrequently used, as reported in the supporting statement submission by the applicant, and has generated little to no noise over these many years. This is a competent planning issue under PAN 1/2011, in that a proposed caravan site will engender a lot of noise with coming and going of mobile units, as well as visitors' activities being spread over many hours of the day and possibly night. The visitors will be on holiday, and their mobile caravan or mobile unit is their holiday home, and this is bound to engender considerably more noise than at present, to the detriment of me at Arasaig, but also the residents of Golf Road that back directly onto the site. The noise will not only be generated by vehicle movements, but also by caravan owners quite reasonably enjoying themselves with probably dogs and children. Again, the applicant is suggesting that operating protocols could be conditioned, but this is not effective in reality, as the conditions are virtually unenforceable by environmental health. The proposal by Ballata Golf Club has merit in terms of seeking a greater income in order to support the long-established club, but there are other areas of ground nearer to the existing caravan park that might be considered. The drawbacks to me and other adjacent residents to the relevant policies must be taken into account with the planning decision. In summary, I would ask the members that in coming to their decision, they take account of two main factors, that A, both SEPA and Aberdeenshire Council's flood unit are maintaining an objection to this application on the grounds that the site is vulnerable to flooding, and an approved decision has to be referred to ministers, and that B, policy 8 of the CNPA local development plan requires that proposals be of the highest quality with no significant adverse impact on residential amenity. And in this case, there is a significant risk that the proposed management protocols will fall short of expectation and create that adverse impact. I have been a member of Ballata Golf Club for 68 years, and there have been good proposals and bad proposals, and this is a bad one, which is being promoted by one or two inflated egos in the club. I would therefore respectively seek a decision of refusal by the committee. I must point out the president showed his lack of knowledge of Ballata Golf Club when he said the local estate donated the ground to the club. The club bought the ground from the local estate. It wasn't donated. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Members, do we have any questions for Angus, please? I think you've stunned them all into silence, Mr. Davison. We don't seem to have any questions. No questions, members? Okay, thank you. I would ask you to retake your seat. Thank you. Katie, would you like to come back on any of the points raised?
No.
Okay, thank you. At this point, we will now move to committee discussion and debate. Does anybody wish to open that? Bill Lobbin.
Thank you, Convener. I have to be honest, I'm really concerned about this application based on the presumption of flooding. You know, when you look at the professional representation from both SEPA and Aberdeenshire's flood risk team, you know, SEPA are specifically stating that this application is a risk to life, and that flood warnings are intended for owners and occupants of existing buildings, and it's not an appropriate way to enable new development. Aberdeenshire Council are saying basically the same. The emergency evacuation plans are not suitable for new applications. So I really am seriously concerned that we're bringing this forward with a recommendation to approve.
Okay, thank you. Steve McElroy.
Yeah, just to echo Bill, really, when I first saw this, I thought, oh, it's motorhomes, it's easily managed. But the more I've kind of heard about this, and I acknowledge that motorhomes are not really a permanent residence or anything like that, but we are talking about potential loss of life here in an extreme flood event. And I'm afraid I wasn't really convinced that, if I understood right, that volunteers would be responsible for a lot of this, the management by the golf club. So I am extremely concerned. I think for the golf club, I feel very strongly that I would want to support this, but I am deeply concerned about the potential loss of life, and I'm not sure from the professional advice that we've taken here that I feel comfortable approving this particular application right now.
Okay, thank you. Eleanor McIntosh.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep up the same theme, I'm afraid. I think I can see totally where the golf club are coming from, but as a member of a committee that's being told there's a threat to life, then it's quite a maverick approach to not take heed of that. And I'm not seeing really any justification for not taking heed of it at this point. So I'm not comfortable at this point in time.
Okay, thank you, Eleanor. Anne Ross.
Thank you. I too have concerns regarding this application, and it's recommended for approval. Given, and as I say, we take each application on its own merits, but given its location and given the risks involved that have been highlighted, I have still to make up my mind, but I have grave concerns about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Sandy Brownlow.
Yeah, I mean, several issues here. It's clear there will be some impacts on neighbouring properties. There's a question mark over the extent of those impacts. This application offers really significant community and economic benefits in a village with a chronic lack of these facilities. It's in accordance with key national park planning policies. There certainly is an identifiable and well-stated flood risk, but there's also a robust mitigation plan in place to tackle that. So I'll be supporting the officer's recommendation to approve with conditions.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. Lauren McCallum.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, I'm going to join Sandy on this. I can really sympathise with some of the objectors and the positions that perspectives that they've put across. Also share some of the concerns around the real flood risk, but you know, understand the mitigation plan that is put in place, and I think that is suitable. And again, as somebody who visits Ballater frequently, sometimes in a van, I can definitely see where other camper vans have been parking up at Campus of May, and some of the comments that were put forward from the Community Council. Also, as a young golfer who spent many hours on the golf course, I can really sympathise with the golf club's position and having to diversify and protect jobs in the local area. And from what I've heard from the applicant, it sounds like this was a sort of democratic process from the members, and this was something that has been supported widely within the club, and is going to provide that kind of financial and economic support. So with that, I'm going to support this application.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. Mike Williamson.
Yeah, likewise, I would propose to support the application. I think Katie basically outlined in her presentation that if it's not this site, then people are going to be likely parking on some other site which possibly would flood, but without the management of being put in place to support those. So that would be my first point. I think some of the stuff that was been raised around about noise, etc. I think that may well be covered under the caravan licensing when that gets applied for, and we've received assurances from the golf club that they will be applying for a caravan license, or caravan site license, should I say, in order to operate this site. So I'm not sure which council it is, Aberdeenshire that this sits in, but whatever. I suspect that some of the conditions that may be applied at that point may cover some of the objections. I also believe there's been mitigation measures put into place which would support effective evacuation of the site in the event of a flood warning being given. So overall, on balance, and it is a very fine balancing act, I'm going to support this.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Jiva Blackett.
Yeah, thank you. This is probably one of the hardest planning applications I've ever had to take part in, actually. I am happy to hear from the applicant that those trees came down last year because they were something that had been pressed for, and that a hedge could be put in. So I'm satisfied on that score. I think I've got a question for possibly Peter, and that is that if we recommend approval, because I absolutely get the finances of and the economy of the area and the finance of the golf course, I really understand that. Is it ministers then who have the final decision, or is it us?
Dick and Peter, thank you.
Yes, Jiva, if members are minded to approve, that requires to be notified to ministers. Ministers then have two options. They can either release the decision back to the Park Authority, in which case the decision would be of the Park Authority. Alternatively, ministers could call the application in which case it would be considered by a DPEA reporter in the same way as planning appeals are determined. So that there are two routes following a notification.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I thought. So, because I'm really aware of the flooding issues in Ballater. God, I mean, anybody who lives here who lived through Storm Frank is aware of that. So I think on balance, given that the privacy of the neighbours is going to be protected, and that government ministers have the opportunity to absolutely make certain that they are content that lives are not in danger through this, then I'm happy to support the application.
Okay, thank you, Jiva. Derek Ross.
I think we've got to look at what we've got in front of us here and not be speculating about what government ministers may or may not do. We've got an application that we've to determine today. Now, Michael Williamson talked about balance. Now, I would have said that in terms of a committee and a planning committee, we must always err on the side of health and safety. Now, we've given information within the papers that Aberdeenshire and SEPA have huge concerns about this application in terms of the safety of individuals. And I think that I agree with Bill Lobbin, and I'm totally, well, not totally against, but I can actually absolutely see where the golf club is coming from, but in this situation, it's the wrong place for this development.
Okay, thank you, Derek. Eleanor McIntosh.
Yeah, thanks, convener. Can I check, Katie, and I probably should have asked this before we got to debate, but who is actually going to be responsible for, carrying out the flood warning within the club? Because there was reference to it being it would be the same procedure as the caravan club, but it's not the caravans, it's a golf club. So what is the line of responsibility there?
So the applicant may be able to clarify the point once it's been notified to the golf club, but my understanding is that SEPA and the Met Office provide a 3 to 5 day forecast, and then it's determined whether, if it's if there's going to be a flood warning, then I think the emergency services are then notified, and then that's when it's then distributed to the local flood resilience group, to the caravan park, to the golf club, to I imagine the community council, but I'll be corrected, and obviously residents, and then from the point that the golf club are notified, is then their responsibility to obviously let people who are maybe booked on know that they won't be able to, and to let the visitors staying on the site know that they need to evacuate.
Yeah, but to me it came over as being an ad hoc volunteer thing once it got to the golf club's stage. Given the severity of the warnings we're getting here, then I would have preferred, or would be insisting on, an exact responsibility chart.
Yeah, and that's absolutely, I mean, we have in one of the conditions is that that they will need to provide all of the details about the flood warning and evacuation procedures. So that's something that we will see, and we have asked for in absolute detail. So we would be able to require that, so we know what so we've got a clear idea of what that procedure will be.
Okay, thank you for clarification. Going to David just now.
Sorry, and thank you, convener. It was just one minor addition to what Katie said there. Under recommended condition 3, point B, that as part of the plan that would be required, there would need to be details of designated responsible persons within the management that would be responsible for that evacuation process.
Okay, rather unusually at this stage, I will allow you to come back in just to clarify, because it is important. Thank you.
So yeah, just to answer the question. So Katie has outlined the procedure. So upon receipt of a flood warning, the fire and rescue team, commander, who happens to be the head greenkeeper of the golf club as well, he would notify the community council, the caravan park, he would notify the golf club. We have a responsibility matrix for the evacuation procedure. So responsibility rests with myself, the vice president, 3 other committee members, and our operations manager within the club. So it's all documented as to who's responsible to trigger the evacuation procedure. That helps answer your question.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask you to please take your seat? Thank you very much. Steve Micklewright.
Yeah, thanks. That last comment was really helpful. Is the operations manager a member of staff? Are they full-time employed by the golf course? Can I ask that for 1 second before I say what I want to say?
Yes, I'm being informed that they are a member of staff.
Okay, that's very helpful. All right, so the thing that's most worrying me is point 18 in the report, which is SEPA's view about the risk to life and the difficulty of evacuating the site. I think what I'm trying to work my head through is whether all the process that's in place that tries to deal with this before the flood happens is sufficient and actually, does its best to prevent, any kind of serious incident here. And I have to say, I'm kind of really wavering on this particular one. I think it's a really difficult decision for lots of reasons, but that's the thing that's the crux of this for me: is are the measures significant enough, strong enough to ensure that risk of life is eliminated? And I'm still not sure.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Bill Lobbin.
I just think we're missing the point here. As far as the professional flood advice is, flood warning is not an appropriate way to enable new development. So you're trying to circumvent the advice, the professional advice we are getting from the two flood teams. I'm not an expert in flooding, but I'm more prepared to take their advice than the airy-fairy idea that we may be able to evacuate these people.
Okay, thank you, members, and thank you for everyone's comments. As it stands at the moment, we have the officer's recommendation in front of us, which is to approve subject to conditions. We have heard that there are members in the room who support that, and we have also heard that there are members who are uncomfortable with it. As it stands, we do not have an amendment. We do have an amendment. Bill Lobbin.
I would obviously welcome a few seconds with Peter, but it's on the basis of the flood risk, as indicated by SEPA and Aberdeenshire Council.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone second Bill Lobbin's? Derek Ross seconds Bill Lobbin's amendment. So, members, Steve, I'll let you come in for a second.
Yeah, I agree with Bill. I'd welcome another proposal here.
Okay, thank you. So, members, I propose an adjournment because we are going to work up an amendment. Bill Lobbin and Derek Ross will take time out with Peter, so we will adjourn and we will notify you when we're ready to reconvene. Thank you.
Where are you going, Peter?
Stuff like that is, yeah.
Okay, members, thank you very much. Just before we start again, Hannah Grist has had to leave the meeting, so she has now gone, and we will go to Bill Loban to hear the amendment.
Provided I can read my own writing. So, the application is contrary to policy to NPF 4 policy 22 and to the LDP policy 10. And the application does not fall within any of the exceptions of the aforementioned policies. And despite the proposed mitigation, it is in its compliance with other policies due to the advice of SEPA and Aberdeenshire Council Flood Team that the application should be refused.
Okay, thank you, Bill. And do you have a seconder for that motion?
I'll formally second.
Derek Ross, thank you. So, members, we have the original motion, which is the officer's recommendation, which is to approve subject to conditions, and we have the amendment from Bill Loban, seconded by Derek Ross. So I'll pass to the clerk now to run a vote. Thank you.
Jiva Blackett.
Sorry, can you repeat that, because I've got a noise in the background? What's the motion and what's the amendment?
Okay, Jiva, so the original motion is the officer's recommendation to approve subject to conditions.
Thank you. I'll go motion. Thank you.
Sandy Bremner.
Support motion. Oh, sorry, support recommendation. Yeah, same thing. Support officer's recommendation.
Jackie Brereton. Supporting original motion, officer's recommendation.
Peter Cosgrove.
Supporting the motion.
Kenny Deans.
Supporting the motion.
Russell Jones.
Motion.
Bill Loban.
Amendment.
Steve McElwright.
Amendment.
Lauren McCallum.
Motion and officer's recommendation.
Eleanor McIntosh.
Amendment.
Ian McLaren.
Motion.
Fiona McLean.
Motion.
Anne Ross.
Amendment.
Derek Ross.
Amendment.
Michael Williamson.
Motion.
Thank you, Alex. We have 10 votes for the motion and 5 votes for the amendment. So the motion is carried, and the officer's recommendation and planning permission is granted. Thank you.
Just to clarify that, Russell, needs to be referred to Scottish ministers.
Yeah, beg your pardon. As far as this committee, the officer's recommendation is carried, and it will now go to Scottish ministers. Thank you. Gentlemen, you're free to leave if you wish. Thank you. Thank you, members. Moving on to item 7. Paul Gibb has now rejoined us in the room. Item 7 is application for detailed planning permission. It's a section 42 application to vary condition 8 of an original application, erection of distillery, 3 number warehouses, access, parking, offices and boreholes at the U220, 250 metres southeast of Spey Dam, Lagan. This will be introduced by Catherine Donachie, Planning Officer, and Lequarn Rose. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you. Yeah, this is an application just to amend a planning condition of a previously granted permission for a new distillery at Lagan. This slide shows the location of the distillery, which was approved at the November 2023 meeting of the Planning Committee. Access coming through the track from the Trunk Road to the east of the site, and that outlined in the red is the site itself. There's adjacent to the site is the special area of conservation, the River Spey, which a habitat regulation appraisal was undertaken at the time of the original application. This just shows the sort of context of the site. There's areas of woodland around the site and large areas of planting proposed for the previous consent. This is the layout of the site. The distillery buildings, warehousing, etc. to the south of the General Wade Road. There's a number of rights of ways through this site. There's this planning consent, the whole principle of it was established, conditions were granted. There was numerous planning conditions, in total 29, which were a lot of which were seeking just final detail of things, of various aspects. None of the planning conditions have been discharged in terms of the information requirements. There's quite a bit of information requirements, and the applicant is wanting to amend one of these planning conditions. The condition previously required that the development give us details that no development should start on site until they give us details of the design and finishes of a number of items, sprinkler tanks, cooling tower, pipe bridge and check dam. The applicant wants to change it to no development shall commence on the installation or erection of these items until they've been approved, just to give them a bit more time to procure that information. It's a suspensive planning condition, but the timing is slightly different. Because there's quite a lot of suspensive conditions, as explained in the report, the applicant is to provide has got to devote resources to the procurement of that information, to drawing up the roads plans, etc., and all of which is fairly standard, but it does take a bit of time. The planning consent is due to expire in November, and they'd have to make a start and then that to keep it live as well. The effect of this, if planning permission is granted for this, would be to issue a completely fresh planning consent under section 42 of the Planning Act, which would have different timings on it. This is just showing you where the various items are on the site. There's up in the top left-hand corner, is where this check dam is in an existing, it's just a very naturalistic sort of slowing down of water on the wetland area up there. You see the main in the middle of the site, you'll see an item 10, which is the cooling tower beside the proposed various blocks of the distillery. And then down from there, number 12 is sprinkler tanks. And then there's a pipe bridge crossing from the building to the warehouses to carrying services. These are what the items are. They're in the utilitarian part of the development in the service yard, essentially. That's just an indicative plan that they gave us for the cooling tower before. These are fairly, they're small pieces of infrastructure, essentially, that we just want the final details of. That's just to show you where the site is, very attractive site down by the Spey, all assessed previously. The main issue with this is the principle of the change, which relates to procedures. The principle of development is established. It's simply a procedural change to get a condition reworded that doesn't change any aspect of the nature of this development or create any policy issues. It was all considered under the National Planning Framework previously, and it's just a minor timing change, which we think is entirely acceptable. It will allow the applicants to get a fresh planning permission, and we are recommending approval subject to the revised wording that they're seeking, but also subject to a condition that they get a 3-year time condition, standard time condition that gives them another 3 years to commence development. Previously, that was an informative, but because of legislative changes, it's now required to be a planning condition, so there will be one extra condition on it. That's just a change since the previous application, and that will give the applicants more time to get started on site, which is their desire, and get all this information into us. So we're very comfortable to recommend approval of this minor change to the wording of a planning condition. Thank you. Subject to all the previous, because it is a fresh consent, I should mention that all the previous planning conditions have to be reattached, and all the previously approved plans have to be approved again, so that we've got a fresh consent that can be enforced in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Members, are there any questions for Catherine? I'm not seeing anyone in the room or online. I would now like to say good afternoon to David Campbell and John McDonough, the agent and applicant, and invite you to address the committee, gentlemen, if you'd like to take your seats. Thank you. Gentlemen, you have 10 minutes to make a presentation. I will give you a pre-warning at 9 minutes, and just continue in your own time. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Campbell. I'm the agent for the applications. This is my client, the applicant, John McDonough. I do have a presentation, but it repeats a lot of what Catherine has just said. So unless anyone feels that would be inappropriate, I'm happy to kind of leave that and maybe let John say a few words just about the applicant's position. And then if there's questions, we can pick things up that way, if that's acceptable.
We can move straight to questions, gentlemen, if you would like to do that. Okay, thank you. Members, do we have any questions? Okay, I don't see any questions in the room or online. Gentlemen, thank you. If you'd like to retake your seats, thank you very much. I was going to ask Catherine if you want to come back on anything, but I don't think you will on that one. So when I move to discussion and debate, members, would anyone like to? I'll go to Bill Loban. Thank you.
I think this is a really excellent application, and it's really a very minor change. I think we should just accept it. I think it's very well done, and it's really good for the entire area.
Agreed.
I think that's unanimously agreed, Mr. Loban. Thank you very much for your comments, and that is members are content to take forward the offer's recommendation, subject to all the previous conditions. Thank you, gentlemen. Just for members' awareness, Jiva Blackett has left the meeting as well. She had another meeting. So moving on to item 8, application for detailed planning permission. This is to install additional mountain biking downhill run on the existing Buzzard lift, shown as Trail 4 at the Lech Ski Centre, Corgarth, Strathdon, Aberdeenshire. And again, this will be introduced by Catherine Donachie. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you. Yeah, this planning application is at the left, which you'll all be familiar with the ski centre there. It's to the east side of the main road, the main Cockbridge, Tomintower Road, and the outlined in red there, you can see the sort of the area of the site. There's a dotted blue line on the right-hand side of my slide, and that's to indicate the boundary of the designated site. This is the Ladder Hills Special Protection Area, an SSSI designated for blanket bog and vegetation reasons. So it's just to let you know where that is. This slide kind of shows you again where the terrain of the site, which is largely moorland, and just to the immediate east of that main road, and then down to the left-hand side, there's the ski infrastructure, the existing visitor centre, I'm sure you're all familiar with as well, and all the ski tows, etc. And there's a car parking areas there too, so that's all existing. There's also a wind turbine. Now this slide shows the site itself, the proposed site. So you on the right hand side you see the red line zigzagging up the hill. That's where the proposed mountain bike trail is, and it's just under 2 metres wide, the trail itself, and then there's a wee access road running up, that's in a black line running back down to the road, and that's the access that they'll be taking to go up there. They'll use the existing ski infrastructure, which is the Buzzard Tow, the light blue line at the top of the site there, and that's what they'll be using to take the bikes up to the top. And then there's a platform, they'll come off the top and then zigzag down to the bottom there again, where the cyclists will dismount. There'll be a level area for them to dismount. The premise of the whole development is to diversify the season for the ski centre and help support the existing ski centre, which already has mountain bike trails on the other side of the road, the west side of the road, where you see the green zigzags up the road there, up the hill there. There's a number of different construction details for it. The materials will be as one on site. They'll dig into and create them. They've given a fairly detailed construction method statement of how it will be reinstated, and there's different types of construction for different bits of the trail, including for where the snow ski slopes, the piste construction, which is the bottom left-hand one at the bottom there, because there's skiing goes on here too, and that shows a sort of smoother profile, but that'll all be the ski personnel will be involved with that anyway. This is to show the access down from the bottom of the access road that goes up there. The Roads Department and Moray Council were keen to ensure that cyclists didn't just come down the road and then cross the main road, because it will be in the summer where the road will be busier obviously than it is in the ski season, and also traffic speeds will be higher, so they don't want them just shooting across the road. So there's a barrier at the bottom of the access track that there's going to be put in place at every gate, and then the cyclists will be directed, and along a little path will be formalised alongside the road, which is just a very natural little whin path, and then a crossing point to go across to the car parking area, just for safety for the cyclists. So that's addressed the road safety concerns of Moray Council. This is to show you the boundary that the ski centre is effectively surrounded by the Ladder Hills Special Area Conservation, and we require to consider any impacts on that by way of a habitat regulation appraisal, which has been carried out by our ecology officer and has been agreed by Nature Scott. There's the River Spey, the Conglass water to the far north that connects the River Spey. So we have to make sure that there's no discharge into that or any pollution of that, and that can be from the construction work, not from the dry-up trails themselves when they're in operation. And the subject to construction environment management plan and normal pollution prevention controls, we're satisfied that that's been addressed. The other potential issue was in relation to the Ladder Hills SCC, because that's designated for blanket bog interests, priority habitats, and want to make sure that when they're digging the trails out, there's no connectivity and draining or effect on the bog. And the habitat regulation appraisal took that into account, and we asked for a peat survey from the applicants to see if there was any deep peat on the site. Now that slide shows that the top right-hand side, there's the zigzags of the track coming in, and you'll see that the darker colours, the sort of oranges, reds, that's where there's deep peat. It's 0.7 metres deep there, and then the lighter green 0.5. So you'll see that one bit of the track is actually going into the deep peat. The applicants had said in their submission they would microsite the development to avoid any deep peat, but now that we've got the peat survey, which we got during the consideration of the application, it's given more information on that. The habitat regulation appraisal is concluded, and our ecology advisor concluded that they need to be 30 metres away from the edge of the special area of conservation to make sure there's no connectivity from their works, and that parts of the trails will need to be redesigned, just move back a bit to make sure that that is not the case. In terms of landscape, that's going to have a very limited impact because in the wider landscape, the exact route of how the trail goes down is not really, it's negligible impacts really if it change it a bit. So we're recommending a condition that we get that revised site plan that addresses that peat issue. Now, sorry, this is taken, as you can see, sort of earlier in the year, and that shows looking up at the site from the main road, looking east across the site, and it's just the moorland to the right of the toes. And it's the top of the toe, again, that the left-hand slide taken earlier in the winter, and that's just showing the top where the cyclists will come off, and then they can cycle down the new trail. Bottom of the trail, where they go up, that's the toes that they'll be able to take the bikes and the riders up to the top of the hill. That's existing, all using existing infrastructure. And then that's the wee track that comes up from the public road, running up there. And you'll see the areas of sort of, in the next slide, maybe better, the areas of peat adjacent to that, exposed peat adjacent to that track. And that's running back down. And then you'll see that there's the visitor centre down there to the south, the wind turbine beyond it. So you see all the infrastructure that there is on this site in this area already. This is where they're going to proposing to put the little path along the road, just back from the road. No barriers, because when there's clearing snow along the road, you don't want that would affect the council's snow clearance. So it's just got to be a little informal path going back along to the car park there. This is looking across to the other side of the road where the existing mountain bike trails are, and you can kind of make them out going up, zigzagging up the hill there again, and the ski toes and chairlifts in the background there. In terms of the principle of this development, those mountain bike trails were given consent in 2015 and have well established the previous ones. In terms of the principle of the development, this complies fully with our economic development and tourism rural development policies, which would support this type of development, which is within an existing ski centre, supporting the ongoing sustainability of the ski centre and in existing jobs, and providing all-round, helping with all-round viability there. In terms of the impact on designated sites, we consider that, subject to the conditions outlined in the report, that there should be no adverse impacts on the designated sites, all as per the habitat regulation appraisal that was carried out. On the landscape, once the tracks are constructed, they're going to be pretty low impact with turf sides, and the verging and the construction of them has all been detailed in their construction method statement, whereby our own landscape advisor is content that there will be no impacts in terms of the landscape or the special landscape qualities of the national park. The environmental impacts, aside from the designated site, our ecology advisor has looked at the ecology studies that the applicants provided during the application, and is content that, subject to pre-construction surveys and the employment of an ecological environmental clerk of works, that again any impacts on mountain hare and breeding birds in the area, which are key issues, and reptiles, can be addressed suitably by mitigation. And because they will be working, they really have to do the construction during the summer season. They will have to have their environmental clerk of works on site and species protection plans in place for that. And then in terms of servicing, as I mentioned earlier, the roads department are happy with this application, as there's no sort of other flooding drainage issues with it. So we're recommending approval of this subject to conditions. We consider it's entirely in compliance with our policies, and will provide a useful facility for the amenity for the area in line with policy. So recommendation is approval subject to the conditions outlined in the report.
Okay, Catherine, thank you very much. Members, do we have any questions for Catherine? Eleanor McIntosh.
Yeah, Catherine, the last tracks, although you can hardly make them out now, the last tracks were horrendous, and it took over 10 years for them to blend in. Are you able to give reassurances that that won't be the case this time?
We believe so, because the details we're asking for, we've got details of the construction of them at the moment, and we've also looking for an environmental clerk of works to be on site while the works are going on. And we've asked for a construction environment management plan, and obviously we'll need to, I did look at the old file, and I think we will need to keep a close eye on it and make sure that our enforcement officer is involved to make sure that work is done as per how they're saying they're going to do it. Because now, yes, they have blended in, but I appreciate that it maybe did take longer than you would have hoped. And also, I'm not so sure back then if there was such an emphasis on avoiding peatland and bogland, and when one of the, aside from the environmental issues with the peatland, it's just more difficult to work in those conditions and probably creates maybe more of a damage than you would have hoped for normally.
Okay, thank you. Pete Cosgrove.
It's a very pedantic point, but would you be happy to correct paragraph 2 in your report? It's the Ladder Hills Special Area of Conservation, not the Ladder Hills Special Protection Area. They're two different things. The rest of your presentation was bang on. It's all about the SAC, but you say SPA there.
So that's which?
It's paragraph 2 of the report.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
That was okay. No, it's not a problem. I just, at a future date, I don't want someone to criticise that we got it wrong.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, members? Okay, thank you. We'll move to debate, discussion. Anyone like to start that? Derek Ross.
I mean, I understand Eleanor's concerns, but they seem to have been addressed. I think it's about sustaining a well-known business in the area and helping this business to thrive. And the more we can do to help them, the better. That's my view.
Thank you, Derek. Lauren McCallum.
Yeah, just to also support the application. And again, I hear Eleanor's concerns, and being a keen mountain biker myself, I know that trail construction has changed a lot, especially in the last decade, and it has come on leaps and bounds, especially with minimising sort of visual impact. So, yeah, really wanting to see the business diversify and keep afloat. So, I'll be supporting the application.
Okay, thank you. I'm not seeing any other hands. Can we assume that members are content to take forward the officer's recommendation and approve this application?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Catherine. Moving on to item 9 on our agenda, members, is AOCB and LDP update. I'll hand over to Dave for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Convener. So just a very, very quick update from me in relation to our new LDP. As members will be aware, the evidence report for that is currently with the DPA for its gate check. We are still awaiting the outcome of that, but the target date for the outcome is early July. So hopefully ahead of the next planning committee, I'll be able to give you a more definite update on where we are with that. Also, just to note that in parallel with the gate check process, we've been running a call for sites and ideas, which actually closes later on today. That's an opportunity for anyone really to put forward proposals for potential inclusion or consideration in the next plan, including developers, giving them an opportunity to put forward possible sites for consideration. So when that closes, the team will then begin to start assessing those submissions, and we will keep members up to date with that progress. But that is all from me. Thank you, Kevin.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Take it members are content with that. Nobody has any questions or queries. Thank you. That moves us towards the end of the public part of the meeting. For any members of the public, the date of our next meeting will be the 28th of August 2026. Before we close the public part of the meeting, I would just like to thank all of our planning team for all the work behind the scenes and presentations today. Thank you very much. And with that, I'll propose a motion that we move to confidential